Look here, baby. You're hitting them corners too fast. You need to slow this down. You understand? I almost spilled my yak on this $200 suit.
Everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also hit that bell notification so that every single time I post you'll be notified, which is every Wednesday and every Friday. I wanted to make this video for a while now, especially when this conversation was like a little more relevant, but then the conversation died down, and the further we got from it, the more I was just like, no one cares, I'm not gonna do it. But thanks to a video that I recently saw, it kind of reintroduced it in my head and really got my gears going. I was like, I have to make this video. Like, I really want to talk about this. The video I'm talking about is from a YouTuber named JOON the King, and they made a video titled "From the Fame to Shame, Shane Dawson's Story." And that video, honestly, it was so good. Like, let me just tell you, I've been like learning about all the Shane Dawson teen. I know I'm like probably like at least a year, either just over a year late. But I didn't know to the extent of like what he was getting canceled for. And after seeing that video, it like opened my eyes, and I've just been learning so many new things that I just didn't know why he fully got canceled. It was just so well put together. I thought that everything was just presented so easily to understand. Just I can't say enough good things about that video. I will link it down below so you can go watch it if you're interested at all in like long form YouTube videos, YouTube drama in general, or if you just like have any interest in understanding why Shane Dawson got canceled like I did. This is a really good video to watch, and I will link it down below. In the end of their video, they asked this question:
is it acceptable for things in your past to represent who you are today? Where is the line? Or are there some things that are so disgusting they should never be forgiven and forever marked for what they've done?
And that question got me thinking back to cancel culture and, you know, the effects it's had, and do we really need it as a society and things of that nature. So when I originally wanted to make this video, I wanted to say that I was really no longer a supporter of cancel culture. That was gonna be like my big moment to like kind of profess why I didn't like it anymore. But like I said, as time went on, I just kind of like didn't feel like making the video. But for me personally, I just don't like the way that cancel culture has kind of transformed. I prefer how it was in the beginning, and I'll kind of talk about, in my opinion, where it was at its best. But I think where it's ended up now, it's not what it needs to be. And it just seems like more trivial, and I just don't like the trajectory of it. I think it could have gone in a very good direction. I don't think it's too late to change it, but just where it is right now, I really can't say that I'm a full supporter of it. There are certain celebrities, social media influencers, businesses, things of that nature. You know, there are people that I don't support because I think they've done something wrong. But as far as, you know, kind of putting a label on them saying like, oh, I've canceled them, or, you know, this person's canceled, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just with the way everything has been going with that, I just really can't say that I partake in that anymore. Like, there are people that I don't support, but to label it as canceling is just like really not my thing. So usually with these kind of videos, I like to break it up into 3 points, but instead I phrase them as questions. So I'm gonna kind of format this video as me answering my own questions. So the first question is, does cancel culture threaten free speech? The second question is, does cancel culture actually call for accountability? And the third question is, does it shut out opinions that are different from our own? So with the first question, does cancel culture threaten free speech? The first thing I thought of are things like TV shows, movies, comedians, things of that nature. I think the main thing when it comes to pop culture, or, you know, the media that we take in, we have to understand that not everything is going to stand the test of time. And the biggest example I can give of that is if you think about just like a few shows that maybe weren't popular in the 80s and 90s that nowadays, if they aired on TV, it just would cause more controversy than they'd be worth to keep them on air. For example, one of my favorite shows that I know would just not be able to fly today is Married with Children.
I'm a natural born salesman.
Excuse me.
Hey, do I come to the hag shop bother you when you're working?
If you don't know what that show is, it basically centers around Al and just kind of his woes of being a dad, a husband, and working in a job that he doesn't like and things of that nature. And it's just a sitcom style show. And it is a funny show. I think kind of has like that 90s, like filmed in front of a live audience appeal, where it just feels very like genuine, I guess, like in a way. I can't really describe it, but it has that appeal to it. Content wise and how they wrote each of the characters, I can definitely see why it wouldn't pass the test of time. Al, for example, the main character, he is honestly, like, he's kind of like a chauvinistic, misogynistic pig. He really doesn't seem to like respect his wife unless they're gonna get, unless they're about to get busy or whatever. He's like really mean to the next door neighbor. He's always making fun of her, the way she looks and everything. She's not like conventionally attractive, and I think at one point she cuts her hair, and so that opens the gate, I think, for a bunch of like tomboy jokes, and like I think even a few like lesbian jokes or whatever.
Now I am going to my boss's mountain cabin to fish and drink and fish, and sometimes even fish and drink and fish. For 1 week, I'm going to pretend that I'm actually alive. Oh, look, Peg, it's a paper boy.
Out of the way, shoe yeti. Oh, Peggy, you'll never guess what Jefferson did.
Misunderstood your cries of pluck me to the butcher?
But clearly, your cries of pluck me to the barber did not go unanswered.
And then he also is a shoe salesman, and the running joke in the show is that it's usually a bunch of like bigger women that come into the show, and they're always portrayed as like these mean characters, and he's always being able to like crack jokes and like one-liners about their weight or whatever.
Excuse me, but am I invisible?
Possibly from Pluto.
And things of that nature. So for a lot of reasons, that show would just not stand the test of time. Me personally, I do like that show, but I can understand no one's need or no one's, begging for it to come back right now. Another show that I thought of that I know was like a good epicenter of this argument of like, oh, people nowadays wouldn't like this show, or, PC people wouldn't like this show nowadays, is the Boondocks. Now, if you know what the Boondocks is, that is an animated series, another one of my favorite shows. It focuses around a black family living in a predominantly white suburb. And it's just kind of like how they interact with that setting. And I remember when I think people were saying like, oh, we want Boondocks to come back, or we want it to be like, we want it to like resurface, and we want new episodes of Boondocks. A lot of people were like, oh, this show wouldn't stand the test of time. Like, certain things they say in the show, just people would be upset about it. And the funny thing to me about that is that Boondocks is a show that is mainly social commentary. So there are certain things that they talk about in a way that is kind of made to poke fun at people who think like this. So one of the biggest example of that is the first episode, in which I think it's like the trial of R. Kelly, right?
What the hell is wrong with you people? Every famous nigga that gets arrested is not Nelson Mandela. Yes, the government conspires to put a lot of innocent black men in jail on fallacious charges. But R. Kelly is not one of those men. We all know the nigga can sing. But what happened to standards? What happened to bare minimums? You a fan of R. Kelly? You want to help R. Kelly? Then get some counseling for R. Kelly. Introduce him to some older women. Hide his camcorder. But don't pretend like the man is a hero. And stop the damn dancing. Act like you got some goddamn sense, people. Damn. Don't playing around here.
The whole premise of that episode is to talk about how, despite all the evidence that was presented to the public about R. Kelly, how people can still be like, oh, he's so innocent, blah, 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 blase, all that stuff. It essentially does things like that. It takes, kind of these phenomenons from, from pop culture, and even more specifically, even things that go on in the black community, and it just kind of dissects it and kind of puts the viewer at a place to be like, seeing it like this, I can see how that's a little ridiculous. And so I think when people are wondering if cancel culture threatens free speech, I think they have to ask themselves, okay, well, is the free speech being threatened? Is it social commentary? And is it, kind of calling attention to this and saying like, hey, let's look at this a little more analytically, let's look at this a little more objectively? Or is it just kind of making fun of something? When we look at Married with Children, Al, he's not making fun of these women in a way that's like, he's not doing it in a way that is social commentary. He's just doing it just to do it. Like, he's just making jokes about these women's weight. And sure, it gets a chuckle out of me every now and again, but like, it has no weight. And I know that not everything you watch has to be like this big kind of like think piece, like this big layered, dimension narrative piece. But I do think that if you're worried about free speech being threatened, we have to kind of wonder if it is a free speech that is worth defending. I think in the realm of this, if something is going to be offensive, is it just going to be offensive just for offensive sake, or are you trying to make a point? Even comedians, I know that a lot of people feel like cancel culture nowadays is what's censoring comedians, but in my opinion, like, I just think there are some comedians who can tell a tasteful joke that, might raise some eyebrows and might make you be like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that, and some just don't. And I think that when you understand that sometimes people just don't. I think it becomes a lot more easy to understand. I personally, this might be controversial in itself to say, a little hot take, but I think personally Dave Chappelle tells certain jokes that maybe they could be considered offensive. I think he tells them really well. To answer the question, does cancel culture threaten free speech? I don't think it does. I think that it actually promotes you to be a little more aware of what you're saying, because I know people say, I feel like I can't say anything. And I think that is true. You cannot just say anything. You need to be more aware of the things that you're saying. People have the self-awareness to know, like, oh, this could be offensive, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that people are like trying not to give themselves enough credit, and they're trying to like play the dumb role when they're like, oh, I can't say anything I want. No, you can't, because you should never be able to just say whatever you want. I think if people say whatever they want all the time, girl, we're being in a lot different place right now. So I think it's about understanding the impact of your words and just kind of monitoring what you say a little more, taking time to actually think before you speak. The next one, does cancel culture actually call for accountability? So this is kind of where I kind of started falling into the realm of not really supporting cancel culture anymore. I kind of felt like, I feel like nowadays, I feel like when people are outraged by something, it just kind of gives them the space to kind of project their own views on an issue. And now I do want to specify that sharing your point of view is different from projecting. So most recently, what's been going around social media a lot, especially on Twitter, is the conversation of BBLs, Brazilian butt lifts. They've been kind of talked about for a long time on social media for a lot of different reasons, for a lot of different people. But most recently, it kind of sparked up because someone tweeted a video and they were in an airport, and it was like there was a whole line of women who were in wheelchairs, and the context provided was that it was just a long line of women who had all gotten BBLs. And I guess you need a wheelchair after you have a BBL. I didn't know that. Whatever. And then if that tweet came out this past Monday, the whole week has just been tweet after tweet after tweet about Brazilian butt lifts. And I'm just like, what are y'all talking about? I know technically this really doesn't have anything to do with accountability, but it does have to do with people being outraged about things. And I just feel like all the tweets I've seen, especially from people who don't support BBLs, it's just kind of been this mob mentality. They're using it to kind of poke fun at all these other things that come from it. So, you know, when people are speaking out against them, they're like, oh, it's just women being lazy. It's women trying to fit into like the beauty standards. You know, it's women not embracing kind of like natural, you know, their natural beauty, whatever. And I just feel like it allows people to project how they feel in general about things instead of actually like pointing out facts or just kind of stating how they feel. I feel like when something comes up, a celebrity or a public figure of some sort is about to get canceled for something, I feel like people are more excited to kind of jump on the bandwagon and bully sometimes, or just kind of like put them through the ringer of public humiliation instead of actually, I just feel like sometimes things can go a little too far. You know, so let's say a YouTuber or whatever, or any type of social media influencer, they make an offhand remark. I feel like it kind of opens the floodgates for them to be bullied, or for them to have like all these personal attacks come to them because people feel offended by their words. Now, yes, you have every right to be offended by what someone says. I completely understand that. But for example, I'm going to bring up this person. I know this person's controversial, Nikita Dragon. I know that Nikita Dragon is a very extreme example to use, but I'm just going to say this really quickly. So Nikita's been accused of a lot of different things, from being racist to, I'm pretty sure, like trying to groom, I think, like straight men, trying to groom underage straight men, I think, if I'm correct on that. But just in general, a very like problematic person. But I notice sometimes that whenever Nikita comes into a scandal, there are always a lot of negative comments about Nikita being trans. Understanding that everything they do is like appropriating Black culture, always like wearing foundation shades that are like 20 shades too dark and being like, this is just my summer shade. Like, understanding that all of that is offensive. Why are you coming at this person's personal character? Why are you coming at something else that has nothing to do with the argument? And it doesn't happen all the time when someone gets canceled. I'm not going to say it happens every single time, but whenever it does happen, it does. Someone will get canceled for one thing, and then all the reasons that people don't like them kind of start coming out, and it starts being attacks on their physical appearance, you know, their family members and things like that. And I just think the the line between having a mature conversation about someone's wrongdoings in their past and flat out bullying somebody, I feel like that line gets more and more blurred as the cancel culture movement goes on. So I know at the beginning of the video I said how I would talk about the beginnings of cancel culture and that's when I really supported it. One of the most relevant, strongest moments of it is the Me Too movement.
What began as a Hollywood sexual assault scandal sparked a public reckoning around the world.
Thousands of women are using 2 words on social media to identify themselves as survivors of sexual harassment and assault.
It started as a hashtag, right? Hashtag Me Too, in which survivors of would be able to come forward and talk about what they had endured and maybe how they've been coping with it. And it was used as a tool to help people find a community of people that they trust, that they can talk about their trauma with. And because of that hashtag, because of that movement, a lot of celebrities were able to come out and say like, hey, I've had this experience within the industry and for a long time I didn't feel safe. And thanks to enough people coming forward, monsters like Harvey Weinstein were able to be openly accused of his actions. He had to openly answer for them. And now he's actually facing consequences and he actually had to step forth and take accountability for his action. It's that kind of cancel culture action that I miss, when someone who did something very like disgusting and just something you cannot forgive, when that person has to then face what they've done. And I'm not saying that we have to kind of like coddle these social media influencers and be like, no, I know you said the hard R N-word in 2018 and you're just a white person who didn't know any better. I'm not saying you have to coddle them and, you know, kind of teach them the wrong in their ways, but I just kind of feel like the gauntlet that's been created by cancel culture is so toxic, and it kind of discredits the entire movement, and it makes it so that people don't respect it at all. The last question, does it shout out opinions that are different from our own? So there was an article that I was reading actually about this, and I will link the article down below. This article was titled, "It's Time to Cancel Culture." But one of the lines that stood out to me from this article was, understanding a variety of backgrounds and perspectives fosters productive discourse. And I understand the need to always have different perspectives in an argument, and always to, you know, just not hang around, not even just like in an argument, but then just in general, to be able to kind of surround yourself with people who think differently than you, or just who have different perspectives. I totally understand that. But I don't think that every action deserves a conversation or deserves to be a discourse. So let's say this, for example, here's an issue that I felt very passionate about and I still feel very passionate about. Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, him shooting her, right? A lot of the arguments were, a lot of them were saying like, oh, well, you know, we all haven't heard the full story. We don't know his side, X, Y, and Z. And in that situation, regardless of, I mean, if you follow me on Twitter or in general, if you just heard me speak about the situation, you know I'm very passionate about this, and I, of course, am supporting Megan full force, wholeheartedly, all that, things like that. I don't think that there needs to be a further discussion about it, and I thought it was unfair that she had to come online and say what happened.
You kind of try to fill like your space with a bunch of people that you think is making you happy.
I just feel like sometimes pop culture, social media, they have such a weird time to choose when they want to hear both sides, and it's typically when there is an assault against a woman. I feel like then at that time everyone's like, oh, we want to hear both sides, you know, we can't just make up our minds or opinions based on one side of the argument. But I just don't think that in certain situations, especially in my opinion, if it's violence against women, and I feel like sometimes when you're asking someone to kind of hear your side in an argument when they are clearly offended, it feels like a slap in the face. To answer this question, does it shut out opinions that are different from our own? I don't feel like it shuts out opinions that are different from someone else's. I feel like actually it kind of gives a voice and a platform to those opinions that would have never been heard in the first place. This was one of my shorter points. I wanted to kind of put that out there. So this video is getting really long, and I would very much like to end it because I have a little bit of a headache. So we're gonna wrap it up. And I kind of want to wrap it up with answering the question from JOON the King's video. Is it acceptable for things from your past to define who you are currently? Or does the past always have a reflection on who you are as a person? There's a few things that I think about here, right? So I think about in terms of this, right? Everyone on this earth has told a lie. Every single person on this planet has told a lie. But does the lie that you told in the 2nd grade to your mom that you said you did your homework so you could go outside, does that lie reflect on who you are as a person now? Are you always going to be considered a liar because of that lie you told that one time in the past? No, obviously not. Like, I think you can redeem yourself from that. But there is also the saying that people never change. So in that same realm of lying, I think if you lie once, you'll lie again. You know, now the weight of the lies you tell in your life are going to be different. You know, so I know we've all lied once. We all know we've lied many more times than that. We just be lying sometimes. But I think what comes into play here, if your actions should determine what happens to you in your life, I think it depends on how you learn and grow as a person. You know, so yeah, I might have told a lie last week to somebody, but I'm still a good person. So I think what really is the determining factor is if a person has actually learned from that and if they've taken the criticism from it. So for example, in Shane Dawson's case, one of his bigger controversies when he was first called out for doing blackface earlier in his career, he initially got into an argument with a woman over Twitter who was trying to call him out, basically like, hey, this isn't okay. He basically told her to get over it, like, it's an old video, I've already apologized for it, blah, blah, blah. There was one person who really tried to get through to me for a long time, and her name is Jessica Lee. And probably 7 years ago, she's a YouTuber, and she tweeted me, and we got into fights back and forth, and my audience at the time was saying racist things to her, and it was so toxic, and I'm so sorry, and it's so gross, and there's no amount of apologizing for it. And I think I was taking everything as an attack, which is so stupid. Like, looking back, that is stupid. I was taking it as an attack. Like, I'm not racist, leave me alone, I'm not racist. And, you know, it's like, okay, but look what you're making, Shane. Like that, I don't know how I didn't see that. That is scary. Especially in the realm of him being a white man, being confronted by a black woman about him doing blackface and why it was offensive, he should have been able to sit back and take that criticism and even if you apologize 1,000,000 times for it, you should apologize 1,000,001 times for it, because you still hurt somebody. You know, regardless of if you apologize for something before, you've still left that mark on someone. You still have to apologize for it. And I don't really know how that's going to be received, but that's how I feel. I feel like, especially in that situation, instead of telling her to get over it and to stop talking about it, he should have just said, I understand where you're coming from. He even could have said, yeah, I've apologized for it 1,000,000 times, but I am sorry again. I didn't mean for that to come off that way, or whatever he wanted to say. I feel like it's in moments like that when you can't take the criticism, when you were so clearly in the wrong, that's when your past should reflect who you are, because now you've had time to grow from the situation. Even if the situation was from such a long time ago, you've had time to grow from it, and it still doesn't seem like you are grown from it. Even if the whole experience of like being canceled and having to, you know, kind of lay in the bed that you made, kind of reap what you sow, even if that was traumatic and maybe you don't want to face it again, you still have to understand that people are still going to have questions and they're still going to want these answers from you. And you have to be able to step up as a content creator, even just as a person, and say, I'm sorry that I did this, I'm learning from this, and I am sorry that I made people feel this way, but I'm changing and I'm learning how to be a better person. Instead of saying, that was a long time ago, you know, mind your business and all this stuff. Does that all make sense? I've been talking for a really long time and I just feel like I'm talking in circles, but I think I made my points in this video. Hopefully I won't have to do a lot of post-video edits where I like cut myself in, but we'll see what happens. But I hope you guys enjoyed this think piece type of video. Hoping that you guys feel as open as you want to in the comments to talk to me. I love to talk about this topic. And I just love to hear other people's perspectives for the most part, even though my last point said that you don't need to hear everyone's perspective. But yeah, talk to me in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know what you think about cancel culture in general. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Like I said in the beginning, if you are not subscribed and you want to, then you should do so. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also hit that notification. Take care of yourselves out there. Be safe. Be kind to one another. Talk nice to yourself before you talk nice to anybody else. And I will see you all very, very soon. Peace.